The influence of regional powers, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt's role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with its complex history and deep-rooted grievances, is not confined solely to the borders of Israel and Palestine. The larger Middle East region, with its own set of political, religious, and ideological interests, has long played a significant role in shaping the trajectory of this conflict. Three countries in particular, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, have had a profound influence on the conflict, each bringing its own agenda, alliances, and ambitions. In this exploration, we will delve into the role of these regional powers in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and examine how their involvement has contributed to the current state of affairs. The Middle East landscape, a complex web of alliances. To understand the roles of Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it is essential to first understand the broader geopolitical context of the Middle East. The region is characterized by a mix of religious, ideological, and national rivalries that shape the actions of its key players. These three nations, Iran, a Shia power Saudi Arabia, the leader of the Sunni Arab world, and Egypt, a traditional Arab power, represent different strands of political, religious, and strategic interests. Their involvement in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is driven by both ideological convictions and strategic considerations, as well as a desire to exert influence in the region. Iran, ideological and strategic support for Palestinian resistance. Iran, a predominantly Shia Muslim country, has positioned itself as one of the most vocal supporters of Palestinian resistance against Israel. Its influence in the Palestinian territories, particularly through its support for groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad, is one of the key factors shaping the dynamics of the conflict today. Iran's support for Hamas, the militant Palestinian organization that controls the Gaza Strip, has been a recipient of Iranian financial and military support since its founding in the late 1980s. Hamas's ideological alignment with Iran stems from their shared commitment to Islamic resistance against Israel. Iran has provided Hamas with weapons, training, and financial backing, enabling the group to engage in armed resistance against Israel. For Iran, supporting Hamas is not only a matter of solidarity with the Palestinian cause, but also a way to assert its role as a leader of the resistance bloc against Israel. Iran's support for groups like Hamas helps strengthen its influence in the Arab world and gives it leverage against its regional rivals, particularly Saudi Arabia and Egypt, both of which have pursued more moderate policies toward Israel. Iran's anti-Israel rhetoric. Iran's ideological stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is rooted in its commitment to anti-Zionism. The Iranian regime views Israel as a colonial outpost in the heart of the Arab world, a position that aligns with the broader resistance narrative embraced by many Arab and Muslim nations. Iran's leadership, under the guidance of the late Ayatollah Khomeini and his successors, has consistently called for the elimination of Israel and has utilized the Palestinian issue to galvanize domestic and regional support. In addition to its support for Hamas, Iran's role in the conflict extends to its backing of other militant groups, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has engaged in numerous conflicts with Israel over the years. Iran's strategic aim is to encircle Israel with hostile forces, thereby undermining its security and influence in the region. Saudi Arabia, a shift toward diplomacy and pragmatism. While Saudi Arabia, a leading Sunni Arab power, has historically been an advocate for Palestinian independence, its role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has evolved significantly over time. Unlike Iran, Saudi Arabia has not provided direct military support to Palestinian factions, but has instead focused on diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict. The Arab-Israeli Peace Initiative, 2002. In 2002, Saudi Arabia took a significant step toward a more diplomatic approach to the conflict by introducing the Arab Peace Initiative. The plan called for a comprehensive peace agreement between Israel and the Arab world in exchange for the establishment of a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. This initiative was groundbreaking because it represented a unified Arab position that recognized Israel's right to exist and proposed normalizing relations with Israel in return for a just resolution to the Palestinian issue. The Arab Peace Initiative was endorsed by the Arab League and remains an important cornerstone of Saudi Arabia's approach to the conflict. However, the plan has never been accepted by Israel, and despite initial enthusiasm, it has largely failed to gain traction in the face of continued violence and stalemate. Saudi Arabia's evolving relations with Israel. In recent years, Saudi Arabia's stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has shifted even further. With the rise of Iran as a regional power and the growing threat posed by Iran's nuclear ambitions and proxy forces, Saudi Arabia has increasingly prioritized countering Iranian influence over the Palestinian cause. This has led to a quiet warming of relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel, particularly in the context of shared concerns over Iran. Although Saudi Arabia has not formally recognized Israel, it has allowed for behind-the-scenes cooperation on issues such as intelligence sharing and security coordination. In return, Saudi Arabia has pushed Israel to take steps toward a Palestinian state, hoping to maintain its credibility as a leader of the Arab world and a champion of Palestinian rights. Egypt, a key mediator and regional stabilizer. Egypt, as the largest and most influential Arab country, has played a central role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for decades. As the first Arab country to sign a peace treaty with Israel, the Camp David Accords of 1979, Egypt has navigated a complex path between diplomatic engagement with Israel and its long-standing support for the Palestinian cause. Egypt's role as a mediator. Egypt has long positioned itself as a mediator in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, often acting as an intermediary between Israel and Palestinian factions. Egypt has played a crucial role in negotiating ceasefires between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, helping to stabilize the volatile situation in the territory. Egypt's interest in mediating peace stems from its desire to maintain regional stability and avoid the kind of conflicts that could spill over its borders. Additionally, Egypt's peace treaty with Israel gives it a unique position to influence Israeli policy and push for a more comprehensive resolution to the Palestinian issue. The Gaza blockade and Egypt's role. In addition to its diplomatic efforts, Egypt's role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is also shaped by its control of the Rafah border crossing, one of the few entry points into Gaza that is not controlled by Israel. While Egypt has at times allowed humanitarian aid and supplies into Gaza, it has also enforced its own restrictions on the movement of goods and people. Egypt's policies toward Gaza have often been motivated by concerns over Islamist extremism and its desire to prevent Hamas, which has ideological ties to the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, from gaining too much power. At the same time, Egypt has worked to maintain relations with the Palestinian Authority, PA, which governs the West Bank, as part of its broader strategy to foster Palestinian unity. Egypt's involvement in Palestinian reconciliation efforts, particularly between Hamas and the Fatah-led PA, is an important aspect of its role in the conflict. The geopolitical rivalries. Iran versus Saudi Arabia. The rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia has been one of the defining features of Middle Eastern geopolitics in recent decades, and this rivalry has had a profound impact on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While both countries claim to support Palestinian rights, their broader regional competition for influence has often undermined efforts toward unity among Palestinians and a resolution to the conflict. Iran's support for radical groups versus Saudi Arabia's diplomacy. Iran's support for militant groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad contrasts with Saudi Arabia's more diplomatic approach. The differences in approach reflect the wider sectarian divide between the Sunni and Shia branches of Islam, as well as differing strategies for achieving regional dominance. At times, this rivalry has complicated the Palestinian cause, with different Palestinian factions aligning themselves with either Iran or Saudi Arabia, further dividing the Palestinian leadership. The competition for influence has often led to political fragmentation and a lack of cohesion in Palestinian efforts to negotiate with Israel. Conclusion: the ongoing role of regional powers. The involvement of Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not just a matter of national interest. It is a reflection of the broader geopolitical dynamics of the Middle East. These three countries, with their competing agendas and rivalries, have played significant roles in shaping the conflict's trajectory. While Iran's support for Palestinian militancy has fueled violence and instability, Saudi Arabia's diplomatic efforts and pursuit of a peaceful resolution have provided an alternative vision for the future. Egypt's role as a mediator has been crucial in maintaining stability, even as it navigates the challenges of its own domestic and regional concerns. As the conflict continues to evolve, the influence of these regional powers remains a critical factor in determining the future of both Israel and Palestine. The broader Middle Eastern political landscape, with its complex web of alliances and rivalries, will continue to play a decisive role in shaping the outcome of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. If you found this exploration of regional powers in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict insightful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.